everybody, it's Carissa with Happily Ever Paper Crafter, and today I'm going to show you how I created a mini album within a three-dimensional church building. I was super inspired by some videos that I've been watching over by Laura Dennison's blog, and she has been doing this bird series, and I just was always inspired by her 3D, what she can make out of chipboard that turns into a 3D project. So this is inspired by some of her creations. So what I'm going to do is we're going to build the base of the church first. And the base of the church actually will open into being our mini album. And I'm going to show you how we're going to do that. So I have 4 pieces of chipboard, you can see. And they measure 5 by 7 inches, 5 by 7, and then this one is 5 by 4 inches. And these will become the walls of our church and also the covers of our mini album. So I have some pattern paper that we're going to use for the inside. Set that to the side. And I have some white paper that I have cut. It's a 12 by 12 sheet of white cardstock that I just cut in half in 6 inches. And what's important is to make sure, what I'm going to do first is wrap this white paper around my chipboard pieces to create the album. So what I'm going to do first is put some adhesive on the outsides of this. Just my ATG or whatever kind of tape you want, or liquid if you prefer. And this is just going to adhere it to the white cardstock on the outside. And I'm just going to measure and make sure that we're good here. One rule of thumb when you're wrapping chipboard is to make sure that the gaps that you leave for the chipboard is approximately 2 widths of the chipboard that you're using. So you can see I've put them together, that's 2 widths of it. I'm going to put that in there. I can see I can get them a little bit closer. And then we're just going to make sure that we're kind of even all the way around. Alright, and you can be one of those exact crafters that measure stuff out. And I just am not one of those crafters. I am more of an eyeball crafter. And you'll see that as you watch this video, that I am what they call just an eyeball crafter. I really have trouble measuring things out, and you may notice today that I will stumble across mentioning some of the measurements because I really don't measure hardly ever. So what we're going to do then is we're going to wrap this around. And we're just going to get that started by just doing some gentle folding like that. I'm also going to adhere some terrifically tacky tape because I really want these edges to stick well. You can use score tape, you can use your ATG if you prefer, if you don't have any preference of how strong that you want the hold to be. And it's always a good idea to put some really strong adhesive near the seams. You don't want anything to rip or to break there, and to ensure that that doesn't happen, get a really strong adhesive to go there. Okay, so I have made one of the first building blocks of this. Now, We're going to want to actually continue building this by adhering it and continuing the section on. So what I'm going to do then is adhere that on over. We are going to want this to be a continuous sheet of paper. And what we're going to do next is put our smaller rectangle and then our larger rectangle. I'm just reaching over for some random chipboard that I have on my desk here, and just to make sure that we have that placement, we're going to line that up good. So we're going to turn our chipboard over and just run some adhesive around the edges. Alright, and then again over here. Those chipboard pieces back where they were, otherwise I will lose them. And then we're just going to continue to run our tacky tape or whatever your preference is around. I had gone to my local Hobby Lobby store in the hopes of finding some score tape, and perhaps those stores are so large. P.S. I love Hobby Lobby. This is not a rip on Hobby Lobby. I adore Hobby Lobby. I have one 5 minutes from my house. How lucky am I? My husband doesn't think we're very lucky that way, but it is so awesome to just think, oh, I just need this one thing. I'm just going to quick run to Hobby Lobby, and then you can. But I couldn't find any score tape there, and I was so bummed. And I don't really know where online I can find some score tape and trust. I don't know that it's a good price. And I see people with online at these big rolls of score tape, and I'm super jealous. I don't have that, and I want to know where they buy them. Where do you buy your big vats of score tape? See, I'm already out. Already out. Good thing I bought two. I would have been super bummed if we would have been halfway through our video here and I would have run out of tape. Super big bummer. Alright. So we are going to have our tape fortified all the way around. And like I had said, it's super important that you keep the tape at the seams here. And we're just going to continue that gentle folding all the way around. So when it comes time to fold it over, your paper isn't freaking out and you kind of already have the exact fold that it should be on. So hopefully we don't get any creases. Come on. Okay. And one thing I am going to do is trim the corners here. A little bit greater than what you would straight on. Let's see. Just a little bit notch, not totally straight. a little bit of an edge there. And we are going to line the inside of this. So if it's not perfect, that's the beauty of lining it, is that you don't have to be perfect. Because we can cover up our mistakes on the inside. And so that gentle folding that I had done before really helps in this process, so I'm not folding over. I have a little wrinkle there, but usually you don't. And this piece got a little long, so I'm going to pull that up a little bit. How can you love and resent adhesive all at the same time? I know many people use their X-Acto knives to get these the edges of that stuff up, but man, I would cut myself. I just my finger would be sliced right off. I know that about myself. So easy does it. Okay. And as you can see, I mean, it's kind of a physical way to just really get this on here, and that's why I stress getting a really strong adhesive, because you do not want that to go anywhere. Alright. I hope that you guys are seeing this and I'm not often going off camera. Okay. Okay. And we did it! We covered our entire book. And as you can see, there is the base of our church. And then when you open it, it'll become a mini album. Woo! Step one. Nearly done. All right. We're going to take off these strips. And like I said, we're going to line the inside. And, you know, it's the inside of the church, so you can start doing whatever crazy colors you want or pattern paper that you want. I chose this lacy pattern paper. Let me back up and just tell you that I was really inspired to do this project, like I had said, based on some projects that I had seen on the internet, and it kind of inspired me for the whole wedding idea. But I had recently had a family wedding that we went to in Connecticut, and the wedding took place at the cutest, quaintest little Connecticut church. I'm from the Midwest, so when I think of New England or East Coast churches or whatever, I think of this beautiful white church with black shutters, and we pulled up to the wedding, and that's exactly what it was. It was this amazingly quaint and beautiful church, and I just was super inspired by the whole weekend that we were there for this wedding, and it just got my creative juices going. And so now, before we have pages and anything in here, now is the time to do your seam work and really make sure that this book and stuff is gonna work good. There we go. There is the base of our church. Okay, moving on. We are going to create the pages. I envision the book to open like this. And so we're going to have our pages be secured to this flap right here. And we're creating our pages out of envelopes and adhering the pages that we create to here to create that book look. Okay, I'm putting this to the side. Okay, now what we're going to do is create the pages. I found these envelopes at Hobby Lobby. They are A7 size, so that's 5 1/4 by 7 1/4 size. And what I did was trim 1/4 inch off of the sides and then seal the envelopes shut. So the envelope is kind of creates this pocket here. So I'm just going to quick demonstrate that by, here's a regular size envelope. I licked it off camera, you can't see, but that's what I did. You can seal it with whatever. Let me just make sure I'm doing this right. I trimmed off 1/2 inch, excuse me, 1/2 inch. As I'm going to cut that, I realized 1/4 inch was not right. So you cut 1/2 inch off the edge here. And there are your pages. The bride and groom, the wedding colors were this awesome navy and a really pretty pink. So I try to get envelopes closest to those colors. And these will become the pages for the inside of our mini album. The technique that I'm going to do, I don't know if you guys have ever seen it. I don't really know what it's called. But what you're going to be doing is creating this accordion. In essence, this accordion binding. And then you will take your envelope with the slit in it and put it on there to make your pages. So this piece that I've already done was, I told you I'm not good with measurements. It was 12 inches long by 4 1/2 inches tall. Now my envelopes are 5 1/4, so there's a little give, and I did that on purpose because I like a little give, little wiggle room. What you're going to do is take your scoreboard and you're going to score at these widths. You're going to score at 1/2 inch and 1/2 inch and 1/2 inch. Then 1/4 inch, 1/2 inch. Now here comes the pattern. 1/2 inch, 1/2 inch, 1/4 inch, 1/2 inch, 1/2 inch, 1/4 inch, 1/2 inch, 1/2 inch, 1/4 inch, 1/2 inch, 1/2 inch, 1/4 inch. Whoops. 1/2 inch, 1/2 inch, 1/4 inch, 1/2, 1/2, 1/4, 1/2, 1/2, 1/4, 1/2, 1/2, and then you'll have a 1/2 again. That is the pattern that you're going to be doing. And it sounds super confusing, and it is. And it took me a while to understand the basics of this. And that little mistake I made is no big deal because it's going to get buried. But what you're going to do is between the half, so there's a 1/2 inch edge here that you're going to use to adhere down. So that you can kind of ignore. But these, between the 1/2 inch, you're going to pinch up. You're going to make a hill. And then the 1/4 inch becomes the valley between the hills, if that makes any sense. So I'm going to fold and fold the 1/4 inch, then pinch between the 1/2 inch, that's my mountain, and then fold and fold the valleys. And eventually you will see that these are going to go together and there's going to be a 1/2 inch gap between the pages. So you're going to pinch the 1/2 inch, fold and fold the valleys. Okay, I've folded it all over and it looks crazy and it looks crinkly. So where you've peaked, okay, the mountains, and that's going to be where you're going to adhere your page. You're going to make sure that that side is now down. Turn it over. And you're going to run adhesive between the 1/4 inch folds, or the 1/4 inch score lines. So you're going to, in essence, be gluing down, gluing down the valleys to your paper. And the mountains will stand together. That's where you're going to adhere your page. I've cut a piece of just regular cardstock measuring 4 by 5, and this is the same size as the back binding, and this is where we're going to adhere our this shenanigans down onto. And the reason I didn't do it directly onto the book is because if I make a mistake and I need to trim it or move it, I haven't ruined the whole thing. So this is the way the book is, so this is the way we're going to adhere this down. And I'm going to start by almost, I have to make sure that one of my sides is pretty even. Okay, so I've adhered that down, and what you're going to do is pull off the backing and pretty much fold this down, and then fold it over and run it down. And you want this to be exactly next to each other, squished. And you want these pieces that you're adhering down to be totally squished. See how that's going to be? Okay. So you pull your, and this is why this kind of adhesive is good. It's on there, you don't have to keep applying it, and you can pull it off right before you're going to need it. So I'm going to want to make sure we're lined up here, fold it down, and then just keep going. And I love this because after this I have all these little schnibble pieces everywhere. And my table is a disaster. But no good project ever comes with a clean desk. It all comes with a disastrous desk. So one thing I want to make sure that I'm doing every once in a while is I want to make sure I'm straight over here. Because like I said, I have done this before where I've either squished it together too much and it kind of eventually gets a little bit wonky. So just be mindful of that as much as this is kind of a fail-proof technique, it can go wonky on you. Here is my book. This is where this is going to go. Let's just make sure that this is going to fit. We're going to have to trim this a little bit. I love how you think things are going to work perfectly, and then as soon as you get on camera and go through it, and this is your one-shot deal to get this in, something always goes awry, but as it's crafting. Alright, I'm going to put down some tape. I have that last page to stick on, so that's just going to kind of hang out there. I shouldn't have pulled it, I don't know. And I would definitely suggest some strong adhesive again on this because this is where all of your pages are going to be hanging from. And you're going to definitely want this to be very strong. To make sure it's super strong, we'll just run some ATG in the middle of it. So between these two creases is where I'm going to adhere this. And I'm going to get pretty close looking around up here. Okay. did it. All right. It doesn't look like much now, but that's because we haven't adhered on any of the envelopes. All right, let me just clean up my schnibbles before they get stuck on everything. Okay, the best way that I have found and learned from other crafters to adhere the envelopes on is a liquid adhesive. This is the tricky part. Getting these envelopes to stay and be straight and stuff is kind of tricky. And that's why if you use liquid adhesive, you know, there's just that little bit of give of the liquid adhesive. So in case you need to straighten it out, you can. You can see that my envelopes are a little bit bigger, a little bit taller than my book, and that's okay. I actually want them to be a little bit taller because that's going to help hold the roof on. So I'm going to want to make sure that the bottoms of my envelopes match up to the bottom of the book, but the tops can go. And I'm thinking I'm going to alternate pink, blue, pink, blue. We'll see. Okay. Okay, and you're going to want to, you know, like I said, make sure that they're good on the bottom. Fold them over and give them a little crease. And there's your page. How cool is that? So easy. I plan on putting photo mats on either one of these papers. If you don't like the look of an envelope or you don't want to use photo mats, and there is, obviously, it's an envelope. If you don't like that, you can always make a sleeve for your page, which would just, you would just take a piece of cardstock and wrap it around itself to make the sleeve part of that. I just find using envelopes super easy and cost effective. And the nice part about these envelopes, they're lightweight paper, so it's not going to make your album too heavy. But also they're double layered, so the page feels heavy enough that it's not like a single piece of paper or a single layer of cardstock. There's some weight to the page, and I always feel that gives it a little bit more elegance, maybe. I don't know. All right, so I've completed by putting all of the envelopes in, and there they all are. Just think it's a nice way to present pictures and whatever. And if you wanted to, you could put, you could decorate the pages. You could put some decorative washi tape or something in between here on the spine if you don't like that there's white. Clearly you could do this in any color or even a cute pattern paper. So there we go. Now the inside is basically constructed. So the next part of our church that we're going to create is the roof. I'm going to set that over to the side. And we're going to get together our roof pieces. Our roof pieces measure 6 inches by 8 inches, and I have 2 of them. And then I have the triangle corners. And how I created those, I took a piece of chipboard that measured 4.5 inches by 4.5 inches. And then I went to the center of one of the 4.5 inches, and then I just cut out my triangle like that. So there we go. And then what I also have here are some construction pieces. This is a 3/4 inch width piece, which I've scored down the center and then put score tape on, or whatever kind of adhesive, and you put it as close to the score line as possible. Okay, so what we're going to do first, and this is just a very simple basic roof line. Like I said, the goal of what I'm trying to create here is the quintessential New England church, and their roof lines are just very basic. The A-line kind of typical church, I guess you'd say. So I've measured these construction pieces so they would fit. All right. And you can see where I ran out of score tape. I've filled in with terrifically tacky tape. Okay. Okay. And then when you set it down, you're going to want the score line to be precisely at the edge of where you're wanting to join your pieces. Okay. Okay. If you want to burnish it down just to make sure that your edges are good there. And then our goal is to put that in there, so we're just gonna okay, burnish those edges down real quick. Okay. And when doing this, I found it's best to just pull the paper off both sides right away. When you're going to connect the pieces. Okay. And then just make sure you're lined up real good. And then you should just be able to run your finger on the inside in there. And there you go. Your perfect A-line simple roof. And then when you have your church, you can put your roof right on there, and it should hold everything in place. There we go. So we got that. And what does a church need to make it a real church? Well, lots of things, but what this church needs right now is a steeple. So we are going to construct a steeple. All right. I have my pieces here that I've pre-cut. Let's see, is that going to be too close? All right. I pre-cut that piece, but I actually am not going to use that piece. I have cut 4 chipboard pieces for my steeple, and they measure 1 inch by 2.5 inches. So I'm going to cut a piece of paper that's 2.5 inches. And this is what we're going to do. I'm going to just wrap my pieces around. So I'm putting my white side down just in case we're not perfect here with what we're doing. And you can see I've cut 2 notches out of here. My notches will fit my roof line. I took my triangle and I had pre-cut that out so it should match. So I'm going to put a rectangle piece down. And then I'm going to put a piece down with a notch cut out. And I'm going to try to make sure that we're a couple widths of a chipboard apart. And then I'm going to put another piece of this chipboard down. And then my last triangle piece. Okay. When I had originally constructed this, I had used construction pieces to maneuver that, and it just didn't look very clean. And I thought, well, I should probably make it with cardstock wrapped around, and it's obviously already looking better. My first steeple was not that pretty. This is definitely a better alternative. All right. So now that I've trimmed that down, and then before I get too crazy, I'm going to trim out these triangles with my craft knife. Okay. Okay, and then I'm going to probably put down some tacky tape here just so it's a really nice tight fit here. Okay. I'm going to wrap this one kind of on the inside. Trying to get it as square as I can. Okay. Oh. All right, so there's the base for my steeple. And then, of course, we're going to need a roof for our steeple. I don't know if you can see these tiny pieces. Maybe I will do this on some white paper so you can see better. I have cut out 4 little black triangles. And what I did with this was take this is chipboard. I took some chipboard that was 1.25 inches tall, and I made the base of my triangle 1.5 inches. And then I made some squares, measured in the center of that, and then went down again. So what I'm going to do with this, just make sure I got the right sides. Somehow I had already put adhesive on this. I don't know what I was thinking. Let me just peel this back. So when you have 4 of them, I'm just going to attach them in a round, and then they will form. Form the top part of my steeple. Okay. So I'm butting the 2 tops together. You can see this is what I'm going to do. Just keep attaching them like that. And these, what I'm using, again, are the same type of construction pieces, the 3/4 inch wide, scored down the middle, score tape on each side of the score line, close together. Okay, and then I have one last one. You can see it's already forming the roof for my steeple. All right. All right. Here we go. A little wonky. Let me just tighten that up. Okay. There we go. And what I'm going to do for this is I'm going to actually do some liquid adhesive on the top of this. Just give that a little bit of a snug. All right, and set that to the side to dry quickly. All right, sorry everybody, I went off camera there for a minute because the base that I created for my church did not measure up accurately, and that was the first time I ever did it. So I remeasured and remade, and I'm back, and I'm going to show you how I make the base for the book. I've cut out a piece of cardstock, measuring 5.5 by 8.5, and I've, if you can see, I've drawn some pencil lines, and it's about 1/4 of an inch in all the way around. Then I've cut some strips of cardstock, 3/4 of an inch tall, and they measure, let's see, the long ones are 7.25, and the shorter ones are 4.5. And then I've also created some construction strips as well for this. And the point of the base is, when I first created this, the church, and had the roof on it, it worked pretty good to hold everything together, but it wasn't perfect. And if you would kind of bump the church and the roof would kind of teeter, then the whole thing could essentially collapse down. So I needed something, a sturdy base to kind of set the book in. And so that's where we came up with just a very simple base here that when this is up, you can just kind of set the book in. And then it won't fall or open on you in any way. You can, if you want, put a latch on your book and keep it closed with a latch. And that could be really cute if you incorporated like a door with a kind of a latch on it. That I could see was really cute, but I just didn't want to do that for whatever reason. I just, instead of doing a simple little latch, I'm creating this kind of resting in place, which is fine too.
We're all in the car.
Okay, so I'm almost done You can hear my husband. We are on our way to my mother-in-law's, and I am going to be 30 seconds late. There we go. So before I connect those together, I'm going to make sure that this will fit. And it does, yay! My other one, I don't know what I was thinking about the measurements. I was crazy. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to put some liquid adhesive and tape this up so it's nice and secure. And then we have our roof here that I'll set on to our cute little church. And our steeple is now dry. Oh my gosh, look at that! So that is almost the finished product. So I'm going to do a little bit more gluing, and I'm going to schmutz it up a little bit with some windows and doors, and I will be back to show you the finished product. Okay? So here's the finished product. Here's my church. You see there's a front entrance, and then I made this little medallion out of a cut from paper lace. These windows I cut from my Cricut, and they were cut from Sweet Tooth boxes. The front here, this door, was cut from Christmas. It's one of those cartridges that you download free with your Gypsy. That's how I got that. And the windows are also from Christmas. So there's a 360 view of the church. And then I did some embossing for the roof plate. And you can see I have a little grass detail here on the bottom. We actually moved the roof a little more forward so it's even. And the grass was just a punch. And then I added some detailing to the sides. And I don't know if you can see, but in the windows I used my Copic marker, a real light blue. It's kind of like a shadow. And then for all the windows, there's acetate or plastic to make it look like a clear window. And then when you take the roof off and take this out of the base, it becomes the open mini album. And I'm leaving the pages blank because I'm going to give this as a gift, and the recipient is actually an avid scrapbooker. So I didn't want to scrapbook too much so she wouldn't have any fun scrapbooking it herself. But it holds 15 pages. And then to reassemble it, super easy. And there you have it. Thanks for watching.